"It's done," Condor Banks said, lowering his Winchester. The stagecoach, riddled with bullets, lay on its side, and the bodies of the guards were strewn where death had found them. Jack swallowed the lump in his throat. Strangely enough, he felt most sorry for the horse that had been hit by a stray bullet and had just been put down by Winky. No, Scamp did the right thing. The animal wouldn't have survived anyway, and there was no one to treat it. Still, it was a pity about the horse. Those men were armed and knew what they were getting into. The horse was innocent, if one could say that about a horse. A random bullet had wounded it in the flank. And that was it. And Jack loved his bay. Kitch Sanders and Condor quickly hauled out the gold dust. It lay in an iron-bound chest in neat canvas bags. Sanders had broken the lock with a sledgehammer he had brought for the occasion. They divided the gold evenly, securing the heavy bags to their horses' saddles. Everything had been agreed upon in advance, and now the gang was heading to Miles's abandoned farm. That's where they were supposed to get their share. Jack looked at his companions, thinking the same thing they were. Why should some risk their necks while others reap the profits? Read on the men's faces. Yes, they had the gold, but it didn't belong to them. Everything had been organized by Hilderman. The sheriff knew when and where the stagecoach would travel, how much gold there would be, and how many bullets the guards had. He chose the place and time, and he hired them. For that, they had to give up almost everything. They would be left with a quarter, for the four of them. "Boys, I think we're in trouble," Winky said, spitting a long, black stream of chewing tobacco. Jack noticed that his dapper black hat had a bullet hole right above the forehead. "I don't trust him." "Do we have a choice?" Sanders asked. A killer and a card cheat, he had been sitting in the local jail until the sheriff offered him, like the others, to join the job. Kitch had come from the north, was hot-headed and a good shot. It hadn't taken him a couple of months to become a candidate for the gallows. Hilderman knew who to choose. Unlike Sanders, Jack was local and knew the others well. The half-breed Winky, nicknamed Scamp, and Condor Banks. Both were excellent marksmen and daring men. The sheriff must have counted on a couple of us being killed by the guards, Jack thought as he swayed in the saddle. But we all survived, and we have the gold. "Kitch, you of all people shouldn't trust Hilderman," Winky replied. Swarthy and sharp-nosed, he sat in the saddle like an Indian and could shoot as well on the run as from solid ground. "And you know why." "Why? You're as dumb as a rifle butt. Why would Hilderman let you out of jail?" "To help you guys," Sanders said, scratching his head. "I'm a damn good shot." "Sure. And then what? What will he tell the grocer's family you killed? That he let you go? That you're innocent? With so many witnesses?" Winky laughed. His teeth were white and sharp, something to behold. And strong. Jack had tried to knock out a couple once. It didn't work, but Winky knocked out one of his fangs. "What are you getting at, Scamp? I don't get it." Condor stopped his horse. "That the sheriff will kill us all, and take the gold for himself." "What?" Jack asked. "You think the sheriff?" "I know it as surely as it's day and not night," Winky said. "The sheriff has no reason to leave him alive." He pointed a finger at Sanders. "That's one. And two, why share if he can take it all and get rid of those who know about the stagecoach robbery? We're a pain in Hilderman's ass as long as we're alive, aren't we?" Condor pushed his hat back. His eyes were black, as was his beard, and Jack couldn't read anything in them. But Banks said nothing. "I don't believe it," Jack said. "Hilderman has never lied to me." "Have you dealt with him many times, Jack?" Winky smirked. "Small stuff doesn't count, buddy. What we have in our bags, it's a whole different story." In that case, I'm with you, Winky. Sanders looked around nervously. To be honest, I don't want to meet with the sheriff. And you guys, are you with us? Condor, what do you say? Banks chewed on a twig and kept silent. His nose, resembling a condor's beak, gloomily loomed over his thin lips. And you, Jack? Jack remembered Hilderman's gaze, intent, assessing, and mocking, like a gambler betting on cockroach races. No, it's just my imagination. You know Scamp Winky, Jack told himself. He's just trying to take everything for himself, and blaming the sheriff. And you don't mess with Hilderman. If we run together, Winky said. Hilderman can't know where we're going. And where are we going? Banks finally spoke. We'll talk on the way, gentlemen, Winky said. Time is running out. They rode on. Jack shifted his revolver closer to his hand. I see you've thought it through, Scamp, Banks finally said. Go ahead. Speak up, it's time. Because I don't know how we can get away. The sheriff isn't stupid. Hilderman has eyes everywhere. How do you plan to slip away with his gold? Our gold, buddy. Our gold, Winky corrected. We have it, and we earned it. It's our gold, every last pound of it. So you knew all along? Kitch was surprised. You knew the sheriff wanted to kill us? Of course, because I'm not used to such gifts. We were offered a quarter of the haul, a huge chunk, too generous to be honest, and too generous for such a scumbag like Hilderman. That's how they do it, to make you lose your mind from greed. Then why did you agree? Because I know what we should do. And what? Jack asked, gesturing. There's the mountains, impassable for horses. The sheriff's waiting there, his town's there. And over that way, Comanche territory. We won't last a day there. Where to, Winky? We'll go to Arizona through Bone Canyon. Sanders pulled the reins and stopped. Banks stopped chewing. You're crazy, Jack asked. No, I've figured it out. No one will expect us to go there. No one will chase us there. We'll gain time and get away with the gold. Even the Indians don't go there. Many have gone through the canyon and nothing happened to them. Do you believe in Indian tales, Jack? I believe that rumors don't come from nowhere. We have plenty of gold and plenty of bullets. What do we have to fear? People went through the canyon during the day, Kitch said uncertainly. It's almost evening, and we'll have to travel at night. And at night. Haven't you heard what happened to the trader from Prestonville when he got delayed and went through Bone Canyon at night? Come on, Winky dismissed. He was killed by the Comanche. The canyon is sacred to them or something. They say his body was torn to pieces. Hyenas, that's all. And I agree, Condor said, lighting a cigarette. I'll go through the canyon. Winky figured it out right. If we go at night, by morning we'll be in Arizona, and Hilderman will lose our trail. He'll be the last to look for us there. Excellent. Jack, are you with us? Well, whatever it is, I know nothing that can withstand bullets. And we have plenty of those. One night, and we're across the state line. I'm with you. I don't like this. Kitch Sanders turned his horse around. I'll head west. Banks raised his Winchester. No, you're coming with us, boy, or... Kitch drew his Colt. You think you can scare me? Let's see who shoots faster. If you shoot, I'll plug you myself, Scamp promised. Jack didn't notice when he managed to draw his revolver. You can't take on two of us. Jack stayed silent, waiting for the outcome. Knowing how fast Kitch could shoot, he wouldn't bet even on two opponents and prepared to dive behind his horse. And then we'll see. If the sheriff's men catch you, Winky said with a smile, he'll know where we went. That's why we need to stick together. It's part of my plan. If you don't mind. Think. 4 of us have a better chance of getting through the canyon, whatever's there. If there's anything at all besides sand and rocks. Fine, damn you all. Sanders looked at Banks with resentment and holstered his Colt. Let's go. That's better. Winky spurred his horse. Forward, gentlemen. Hilderman checked his watch for the umpteenth time. He and his men stood in a hollow near the town, waiting. They should have shown up by now. Did they fail and the guards killed them? But then we would have seen the stagecoach. Or did those nooses feel something? The sheriff snapped the cover of his pocket watch shut and put it back in his vest pocket. Well, Benson, do you see anything? He asked again. No, boss, no one, replied his deputy, perched in a tree. Hilderman clenched his teeth. Did they deceive me? Fine. I'll show you how to play with me. The sound of hooves echoed, and one of the scouts rode into the hollow. Following him was a skinny old man, ugly and hook-nosed, dressed in worn-out Indian clothes. Mister, we found an Indian. I know him, someone said. A day laborer and beggar. The Comanche threw him out of the tribe. Now he lives in the desert. Why did you bring this piece of crap here? Hilderman looked at the old man with disdain. He came to hire himself to Miles, and says he saw 4 riders, mister. But I don't know the Comanche language well enough to understand everything he's babbling. Really? Benson, come down. Ask where he saw them? Hilderman pushed his hat back and stepped toward the old man. Tell him I'll give $1 if he tells exactly everything as it was. Benson spoke to the old man. After a few phrases, the deputy turned to the boss. His face was confused. He said, all 4 went to Bone Canyon. Hilderman's men exchanged glances. The damn Indian is lying. And if he's not? It's a cursed place, someone muttered. They're dead men if they went there. Shut up, all of you, the sheriff barked. So they all survived? Ask when he saw them? He says just recently. Well, well, these bastards think I won't get them there. They were wrong. The sun is setting, boys, the sheriff said. Time is short. If we hurry, we'll catch them before dark. Mount up. The Indian spoke, pointing towards the mountains. What is he babbling about? Hilderman asked, climbing into the saddle. He says, don't go after them. They're already dead men, Benson said. Then that saves us the trouble, the sheriff smirked. Though I wanted to personally hang some of them. The old man babbled again, waving his bony hands. His fingers, like bird claws, struck his skinny chest as if trying to reach his heart. He says, don't follow them. Benson translated. Everyone who enters the canyon will die. The werewolf will rip our hearts out. What's a werewolf? Someone asked. Enough listening to Indian tales, the sheriff snapped. My gold is there. Mount up. The old man watched the departing riders. His face, like carved from red stone, remained impassive. He whispered something and trudged back to town. We've arrived, Winky said. The riders stopped their horses. The entrance to the canyon was narrow and in the light of the setting sun looked like the gates of hell. Red, blood-colored rocks in the passage. A black, impenetrable triangular hole. In the yellow sand nearby stood piles of rocks, in the center of which rose totems, crude, painted wooden idols with heaps of bones around them. The coyotes must be fat here, Banks noted. The Comanche don't go further, Sanders said, looking around. And they're no cowards. Have you ever seen a cowardly Comanche? I see only a cowardly white man, Condor said contemptuously. Let's move quickly. I bet Hilderman has already figured it out. Riding into the canyon on horseback was impossible. The rider risked smashing his head against the low stone ceiling. Winky dismounted first and resolutely stepped into the darkness, leading his horse by the reins. Go ahead, Kitch, Condor said. You're next. Why? Figure it out yourself. They froze, staring at each other. I'm not turning my back on you, Condor, Kitch said, clenching his jaw. You go first. No, you go. Spitting out the straw, Banks stepped toward him. Kitch clenched his fists. Jack reached out and grabbed his shoulder. Enough, boys. Go ahead, Kitch, and I'll walk between you. At first narrow, the passage gradually widened, and soon Jack saw the sky. Blue, dotted with bright stars. Night was approaching. Winky waited nearby. A cigarette smoldered in his strong teeth. Here we are, he said, exhaling smoke. We can mount up. Jack climbed into the saddle with relief. He felt more confident there. The sound of hooves echoed off the canyon walls. Why do the Indians fear this place? Banks broke the silence, looking at the sheer canyon walls. Right after the narrow passage, the rocks widened, revealing the canyon. Ancient, time-worn basalt walls rose 100 feet, looming darkly over the travelers' heads. Indian tales, Winky said. Someone shot someone. The coyotes gnawed the bones, and they say a monster lives here, an unseen beast. What kind of beast? Sanders asked. What have you heard? Tell us. The Indians call it the werewolf. It means man-wolf. Is that even possible? Kitch was surprised. See, even you figured it out yourself. Winky smirked. When do you think the sheriff will figure out where we went? I think he already knows, Jack said. He caught Scamp's mockery and feared that hot-tempered Kitch might start a shootout over nothing. But in this place, Sanders was uneasy. He bit his lip and looked around. Then another question. Winky turned to his comrades. Do you think he'll follow our trail? Will he venture here? Condor lifted his hat and scratched his head. I think he will. He's not alone, after all. He's got a bunch of damn deputies, and all with guns. And I hope not. Jack looked back. Don't you feel like someone is watching us? I can feel it. Little Jack, that's fear, Scamp smirked. There's nothing here but rocks. As if to confirm his words, stones tumbled somewhere. And you said, No one, Sanders said, peering into the darkness. Banks slowly lowered his Winchester. Sometimes stones fall on their own. It happens in the mountains. We need to hurry. Winky directed his horse forward, but it suddenly balked and neighed, refusing to move. Whiplashes didn't help. Don't beat it. It senses something, Jack said. He drew his revolver and cocked it. There's something out there. They exchanged glances. We have something too, Winky said grimly, dismounting. Get your weapons ready, gentlemen. Let's go and see what's ahead. I'll guard the horses, Sanders said. Banks sneered. Sure, so you can leave us with all the gold. He won't go anywhere, Condor, Winky waved. If he heads back, he'll fall into the sheriff's hands and straight to the noose. Let's go. Stay, Kitch. We'll check and come back. A barely visible path wound between a pile of rocks and scraggly cacti. The moon hanging over the canyon illuminated only part of it, while the path suitable for horses was plunged into darkness. Jack heard a click. Condor cocked the Winchester. Jack didn't believe in monsters and spirits, but the horses were scared of something. So there must be some kind of beast. But what beast can withstand Colts and a Winchester? Not even a bison, he reassured himself, stepping over the wind-worn stones. And if it's the Comanche? They love ambushes. No, the horses wouldn't be afraid of them, and this place is sacred to the Redskins. No, they wouldn't come here. They slowly moved forward. For a moment, Jack thought one of the stones moved. He raised his revolver and almost pulled the trigger. What's there? Winky asked in a low voice. It seemed like it, Jack whispered. There's no one here, Banks said, lowering his rifle. At that moment, a scream pierced the air. It went on and on, then abruptly stopped, and Winky turned to his comrades. Back. It's Sanders. They rushed to the horses, but all they heard was the sound of receding hooves. Damn. They arrived at the spot, and Jack saw a horse lying on its side with its belly ripped open. Its hooves twitched weakly, slipping in the spreading blood and spilled entrails. The other horses were gone. "Kitch!" Winky shouted. "Kitch!" "He left with our share," Banks exclaimed. "I told you. I'll kill him. After him." "Too late, Condor," Jack said. "Stop." "No, I'll get him." "You won't. There he is." Sanders's legs stuck out from behind a rock. The men bent over the body and then straightened up, looking at each other. Jack clutched his throat, nearly vomiting. "Where's his head?" Banks asked in astonishment. "The Indians are afraid to come here," Benson said, looking at the black abyss. "It's dangerous at night, and the sun is setting. We're not Indians, and there are 10 of us," Hilderman interrupted. "Forward." The men lit the torches they had brought, and the group entered the darkness. Inside, the rock was covered with drawings. People, trees, animals resembling bison, birds and snakes, some arrows and signs, eerie masks. "Damn savages," someone whispered. Finally, they emerged outside. "They were here, boss," Benson said, illuminating the ground with his torch. "Here are the horse tracks." "Then we're on the right track," Hilderman said, laying his carbine across the saddle and tugging the reins. "Forward." "Do you hear that?" Someone stopped. "Someone's riding!" Another man raised his hand. "Prepare," the sheriff commanded. Everyone raised their guns, but from the inky darkness, 3 frenzied, riderless horses burst forth. "Catch them!" Someone screamed, thrown against the rocks, but they managed to corner and stop the horses. "Meister Hilderman, the gold is here," Benson said, opening a saddlebag. They drove the horses away, even left the gold. "That's not all," the sheriff said, inspecting the bags. "If these guys think they bought me off, they're wrong. Benson, take someone and bring the gold to town. The rest of us," he turned to the others, "will find and finish off these hangmen." "What could it be?" Jack asked, looking at his companions. "What could rip a horse like that?" "And take Sanders' head," Condor added, anxiously moving the Winchester barrel around. "Kit shot faster than you," Winky added, "but he didn't get a chance to shoot." "What should we do?" Jack asked. He felt trapped. Going forward was terrifying, but going back was not an option. "We take the gold and move forward. The canyon isn't that long, a few miles." They entered the shadow. Jack's palms were sweaty, his finger frozen on the trigger. He didn't doubt his comrades. None of them were cowards, but he saw fear in their eyes. Could the Indians be right and some unknown beast lives here? But if that's the case, can't we kill it? "Shh, do you hear that?" Winky stopped. "Where?" Condor asked, and at that moment something knocked him down. Winky fired. Jack did too. It was the fastest he'd ever reacted, and he heard the bullet hit something solid. Did he hit it? A black shadow darted aside and disappeared behind the rocks. Jack heard a strange, dull, rhythmic sound like blacksmith bellows being pumped somewhere. "Condor, are you alive?" Banks was getting up from the ground. "The gold saved me," he said, stunned. The bag of gold dust was slashed as if with a razor. Gold grain spilled to the ground, mixing with the dust. "Damn it." Winky fell to his knees and pulled off his hat, scooping gold into it. "Do we have any other bags?" "We've got nothing left," Jack said. "The horses ran off." "I got lucky," Banks said, looking at his friends. "I didn't even see it. If it weren't for the bag, it would have gutted me." "What did you see?" Jack asked. "I don't know." Condor shook his head. "I know one thing. If it weren't for the sheriff, I'd get out of here as fast as I could." "Is there anything to pour it into?" Winky asked irritably. "No," Banks said. "Might as well stuff it in our pockets. Scamp. That thing could attack again." "Put it in the remaining bag," Jack said. He bent down and helped Winky. Condor stood over them with the Winchester in his hands. "The bag won't hold," he said, listening to the darkness. "It will. We'll take turns carrying it. I'll go first," he said, struggling to lift the bag onto his shoulder. "Let's go." "Wait," Condor said, looking around. "We need to think this through. Without horses, we won't get far. We need to find shelter." "The sheriff will be here soon," Winky reminded. "We need to hurry." "I hit it?" Jack suddenly said. "Are you sure?" Scamp turned to his companion. "Sure. Only the bullet bounced off it like a safe, or it seemed to me." "At least you hit it?" "I emptied the whole drum and can't boast the same." Winky spoke with difficulty. The bag was heavy. "You know what? I think Condor is right. We need to find shelter. There are plenty of cracks and caves in these rocks. We'll find something and hide until the moon lights up the canyon. In the dark, we're doomed." "You suggest we trap ourselves?" Condor said. "It's easier to keep an eye on a single entrance than stand in the open for the beast to see us when we can't see it." Jack admitted Winky was right. "And the sheriff?" Banks asked. "We haven't heard from him yet, have we?" "This is a bad place, boss. Everyone knows it. We found the gold. No need to go further," said a bearded giant with a rifle. "No, we're going after them." "What are you afraid of, Bob?" Hilderman stopped his horse. "I thought you weren't a coward." "They say no one leaves here alive at night," one of the men said. "Bone Canyon is a cursed place." Hilderman looked at his tense men. "Indian tales. Will you believe them or believe me?" "I promise their share will be yours," he said. "Understand what I'm saying, gentlemen?" "Well, if that's the case." Bob raised his rifle. It seemed like a twig in his huge hand. "Let's catch them, boys." 6 men rode silently over the rocky scree. "Look here!" someone shouted. "A horse! Dead! And no gold! And Kitch Sanders! God rest his soul!" "How do you know it's him? There's no head. He won those pants from me in poker." "That damn cheat." "One got his share," Hilderman spat on the rocks. "We'll find the others." "What could have torn his head off, boss?" Kruger, a frail old man in a colorful frock coat and with an ancient rifle taller than him, asked. "Some beast. Or maybe Winky shot it off. What does it matter? There are only 3 of them left. Let's go." "The trail is almost invisible. The horses will break their legs," someone said. "Then you'll go first and lead the horse," the sheriff barked. "Light the torches. We can't see a damn thing." "Seems like a good spot," Jack said. A narrow crack led deep into the rock, gradually narrowing. 3 men could fit inside, and all 3 sat facing the entrance, their hands never leaving their weapons. "What do you think this creature is?" Jack turned to Banks. "I don't know, but it's very fast, like it has wings." "Could it be wolves?" "You're an idiot, Condor. Wolves don't attack people like that. They kill differently, though there are some similarities." "It's a huge wolf," Banks said, ignoring the mockery. "A huge wolf would have bigger prey. A ground squirrel or a snake wouldn't be enough for it." They fell silent. "What did you say about the werewolf?" Jack asked. "Do you think it exists?" "I know something tore Kitch's head off, and it's not a lion, crocodile, or bison." "Quiet, Condor. You're shouting loud enough to be heard in Arizona." "The moon is rising," Winky said. "Look, the canyon is getting brighter." "So what? How does that help us?" Jack asked. "I think this creature doesn't like the light. It attacked in the dark, did you notice? Jack nodded. If we move through the lit areas, we can make it out. At least we'll be able to see it and shoot it. Look, the moon will be here soon. Enough resting, we need to move. Indeed, the darkness retreated to the canyon walls, revealing a bone-littered clearing. Jesus, Condor exclaimed, peeking out of the shelter. What is this? A lair, that's all, Winky said. He stood nearby, not letting go of his Colt. Jack noticed how his fingers moved, stroking the ribbed grip of the pistol. It devoured them all. It or they, Winky corrected. Why not coyotes? Condor asked. Did you hear a single one here? Jack nodded. In the canyon, he hadn't heard these predators all night, though they were plentiful in the surrounding wastelands, and at night they howled like a damned orchestra. Do you think there might be many? Banks looked into Scamp's face. No animal lives forever, and Indian legends are much older. Damn, you're right, Banks said. Indians are crafty, but they can't lie. Ah. A horrific scream interrupted their conversation. Scamp pressed himself against the wall. Jack joined them. Don't go, Condor shouted softly, grabbing Winky by the shirt. He brushed him off and peeked outside. Come here, quickly. Jack and Condor stood next to him. Look, the half-breed's finger pointed up. Jack squinted. People stood at the canyon's edge. The full moon's light revealed their white pants, feathered heads, and tattooed skin. Comanche, Condor muttered. Redskin bastards. Look. Only now did Jack see the tiny platform hanging over the abyss. The Indians pushed a man onto it. Spears prodded him, forcing him to move. Condor raised his Winchester. Winky grabbed the barrel, lowering it to the ground. You'll give us away. And he's doomed anyway. The prisoner swayed. The scream of a falling man cut through the silence, followed by a horrific splat on the rocks. They're sacrificing him, Jack whispered. Yes, feeding the spawn of hell, Banks said, looking around the canyon. The Comanche are gone, Winky said. We need to leave before those creatures come. They quickly crossed the shadow, reaching the moonlit clearing. Bones lay everywhere. There were bull and smaller animal skeletons, human bones with remnants of clothing on the gnawed remains. I know this guy, Jack said, stopping by a corpse. That's Benson, the sheriff's deputy. Look, our gold is here too. Familiar bags lay next to the bodies of the executed. They had burst from the impact, and the moonlight played on the rocks covered in gold dust. How did the gold get here? Banks asked. The sheriff found our horses and sent the gold to town, and the Comanche were right there, Jack suggested. So, the sheriff is coming after us? Did you doubt it? Winky smiled wickedly. Jack looked at his companions. Let's get out of here. Dawn is far off. Stick to the light side. They were here. The tracker's torch illuminated the crevice. Here are the tracks, and someone's cigarette butt. To hell with the cigarette butt. Hilderman surveyed the cave walls. They couldn't have hidden in there? Looks like a dead end. The man with the torch went a little further. There's nothing here? Boss, the horses! Someone shouted from outside. Hilderman rushed out of the cave and saw Bob struggling to hold a snorting, wild-eyed horse. Someone ran to help him. Old Kruger clutched his rifle in confusion. His horse had broken free and bolted. They've gone mad. They sensed something, boss, Bob shouted. This is bad. Get your guns ready. Hilderman cocked his rifle. Keep your eyes open. Can't see anything. It's dark. You have torches. How many horses are left? Only 2, boss. I've never seen horses so scared, Kruger said. My mare was always calm. Shut up, I hear something, the sheriff interrupted. Do you hear it? They heard a faint rhythmic sound. "What is that?" one of the men asked and then screamed, soaring into the air. The hunters raised their rifles, but no one knew where to shoot. The man's scream was cut short as his body slammed into the rocks. "There's something here." A man's voice trembled with terror. "In the dark." "Hold the torches higher," the sheriff ordered. "Look around." "We need to run," one of the men shouted. "Let's get out of here." He bolted down the path. In the torchlight, Hilderman saw a long, black shape dart after the man. The fleeing man squealed like a pig under the knife. Hilderman grabbed Bob's torch and flung it forward. The black creature, almost blending with the darkness, hissed, spreading enormous wings. "Shoot!" The command was drowned out by gunfire. The flashes lit up the hunters' contorted faces. They fired everything in their barrels and cylinders at the creature. It flapped, screamed, leaped, and disappeared behind the rocks. "Let's go see." Raising the torch, Hilderman moved forward. "Be ready." "We're not going, boss. We need to get out of here," Kruger said, huddling in fear. "I'm not going any further." "You will." Hilderman aimed his Winchester at him. "I pay you, and you will go." "No, boss. We've had enough." The giant Bob grabbed the sheriff's gun, forcing the barrel to the ground, and Hilderman realized there was no point in fighting. "I said, we're not going further." The sheriff looked at the third man. "Fine, cowards," he snarled. "Leave. You won't get $1, but when I get back—" "Sheriff, come with us," Bob said placatingly. "Those guys are surely dead, and these creatures will kill us if we don't get out of here." "I'm not leaving," the sheriff cut him off. "I need Winky, and I'll get him. I'll pay each of you 50 on top of your share." "To hell with the money," Bob muttered, mounting his horse. Kruger climbed onto the second horse behind the rider, and they rode off. 100. The riders disappeared into the darkness. The sound of hooves faded, and it became quiet, with only the cicadas chirping piercingly somewhere in the distance. "Bastards," the sheriff muttered. He unfastened his holster to draw his Colt more easily, looked at the smirking moon, and slowly walked forward. "Stop!" Winky raised his hand. Jack and Condor heard gunshots. "They're shouting? Do you hear?" "It's over there." "It's the sheriff." Jack looked around at his companions. Everything fell silent. "Looks like the sheriff has other concerns now," Winky smirked. "Well?" Condor brightened up. "Maybe the creatures killed them all? What difference does it make? They'll come after us next." "No, wait." Banks got agitated. "If the sheriff is done for, there's no reason for us to risk it. Let's find shelter and wait out the night. Those creatures are probably asleep during the day. We'll wait out the night and calmly leave the canyon." "He's right," Jack said. "Winky, he's making sense." "All right, let's find shelter. Keep your eyes open." The moonlight bathed the left side of the canyon, and every shadow seemed fraught with danger. Jack tried to step quietly, but in the tense silence, every step sounded like a landslide. The right side of the canyon was shrouded in darkness, but even in that darkness, eyes could detect movement. Something was moving there, rustling, slicing through the air. "Look up!" Banks cried hoarsely. Jack looked up and saw a black stone detach from the canyon's edge and fall down towards the mutilated bodies of the captives. Moments later, an enormous figure of the werewolf emerged from the stone, and the monstrous creature descended next to the bodies. The fugitives crouched in unison. "Don't shoot," Winky mouthed. "It's the werewolf." The creature bent over the remains, and the muffled sound of chewing reached the fugitives. It was devouring them, accepting the sacrifice. In the moonlight, the men saw its glossy black fur and flat head, resembling that of a wolf. Two powerful claws gathered behind the creature's back, and its long tail ended in a tuft. But the monster wasn't just a beast. It was half wolf, half human. The Indians knew this creature had lived here all along, Jack thought, and we didn't believe them. "I can take it down," Banks said. The barrel of his Winchester followed the monster's movements. "Don't even think about it." Scamp grabbed his sleeve. "We better get out of here fast." The creature shuddered and hissed. Its head turned. It smelled us. Winky, ducking, ran away. "Run!" Jack bolted. Banks ran last. Behind him, Jack heard the creature's voice. A terrifying, guttural roar, unlike anything he had ever heard. "This way!" Winky shouted. "There's a cave!" They ran under the stone arch. Banks stopped and fired. The creature screeched. "Hit! Condor!" Jack shouted. "This way!" But it was too late. The werewolf's head appeared in the opening. The toothy maw grabbed Banks by the side. Condor screamed, trying to fend it off with the butt of his rifle, but the creature quickly dragged him outside. Winky raised his revolver but couldn't shoot, fearing to hit his comrade. Banks' scream was cut short. Jack and Winky exchanged glances. The half-breed was pale, and now Jack saw that he regretted his choice. Yes, it was easier to fend off the Comanche. "Do you think he's dead, Jack?" "Of course." Jack checked his bullets. "Not many left. If one bullet is enough for a man, it won't stop a monster." "Got any water?" Winky asked. Jack unhooked his canteen from his belt and handed it to him. Scamp took a gulp. "Too bad it's not whiskey," he smirked. "Right, Jack? Do you think it left?" "Let's check." Jack approached the entrance and barely managed to step back. An ugly head on a long, fur-covered neck squeezed into the crevice, smelled the prey, and lunged, opening its toothy maw. Jack jumped back and fired. The bullet pierced the monster's neck. It screeched, and its death cry drowned out the thunder of the Winchester's discharge. The creature collapsed, twitched in convulsions, and went limp. "We killed it," Jack said, rising. His back, jarred from the fall, ached. But it was better than being bitten by such a maw. "We killed the werewolf. I think we should get out of here." Scamp quickly reloaded his weapon. "Before the relatives of the slain arrive." Jack looked at the creature in horror. It was about 10 feet long. The head resembled a wolf's, but was broad and flat like a suitcase. A bony crest started from the nostrils, running along the creature's back and ending at the base of the tail. The black, spindle-shaped body was covered in thick fur, and the long, flexible tail ended in a tuft. "Look at those claws, Jack." Winky nudged the beast with his foot, and Jack saw a bent paw with claws as long as knives. "So werewolves do exist," the half-breed said. And I didn't believe it. Nobody would believe such a thing. We should have gone through Comanche land. "We'll make it, little Jack." Banks was right. We just need to wait till morning. Moonlight penetrated the shelter. The entrance was well lit, but the back of the cave was engulfed in impenetrable darkness. "I'll take a look around," Jack said. Cocking the Colt's hammer, he took out matches and lit one. The weak, flickering light illuminated the cave walls. It was a natural passage, broken and low, but wide enough for a man to pass. The match burned out. Jack lit another. "What do you see, Jackie?" "I don't know. This passage seems to go deep under the mountain." Jack heard a hiss, dropped the match at his feet, and recoiled. The cave floor was swarming with striped snakes. "Winky, there are a lot of snakes here." Scamp instantly sprang to his feet. "That's bad," he said. "Can't even lie down, get bitten, and you won't get up." They moved closer to the entrance. One of the snakes slithered too close, raised its head, and Winky shot, shattering its skull. "Let's get out of here," he said. "Look up, Jack. I'll take a look around." They exited the cave. At this spot, the canyon was particularly wide, and the moon lit it almost entirely. Clusters of time-worn boulders, pitiful bushes, and a few gnarled cacti adorned the bare canyon floor. Jack saw the skeleton of a wheelless wagon, abandoned by someone here. What happened to its owners could only be guessed. A narrow strip of shadow began nearby, covering the approaches to the cave. If they quickly crossed it, it seemed Winky was thinking the same thing. "The canyon is well lit," he said. "We'll run through the dark part, and then—" Jack nodded. "Okay." "Not so fast, gentlemen," someone said. Winky turned, but didn't have time to shoot. The Winchester roared, and the half-breed flew against the wall and fell. Jack quickly crouched and backed into the cave, praying not to step on a snake. "Who's there?" a voice asked, and Jack recognized Sheriff Hilderman. "Is it you, Banks, or little Jack?" "It's me," Jack said, pressing against the rocks. "And Banks." "I only saw two. You're lying." "Check for yourself." "Ah," said the darkness. "I see what's left of Banks. So you're the last one, Jack. You've got the gold, don't you?" Jack stayed silent. "What now?" "Hilderman knows I'm here alone." "So you tried to trick me and run off with my gold?" The sheriff laughed. "All right, I believe you didn't come up with this. You had no choice, boy, I understand. Come out, Jack, I won't hurt you." Jack didn't believe him. "I'm the last witness. He'll kill me just like he killed Winky. No, I can't come out, but what can I do?" "Don't want to come out? Well, I'll wait till morning. My men will come, and we'll hang you from the nearest tree." Jack's eyes fell on the bags of gold. "If I strap them to my chest, they should stop a bullet. I have to risk it. God help me." "Well, Jack, I'm waiting. Come out, I won't shoot." His legs trembled. Jack cautiously stepped out from behind the rock. He raised his hands. "I'm coming out. Don't shoot." The Winchester roared. Jack felt the bullet hit the bags and push him backward. He cried out and fell. His hand groped for the Colt. A black silhouette emerged from behind the rocks. Hilderman approached. Jack lay still, not moving. "Seems like I'm alive." "Well, that's the last one," the sheriff said. "It's done. Now—" Jack fired. Blood sprayed in a fan as Hilderman's head snapped back, his hat flying off. The sheriff was dead before his body hit the ground. Jack got up. The gold had saved his life. He loosened the belt and let the heavy bags drop to the ground. It was over. He knelt beside Winky and saw that the half-breed was dead. Jack sat on a rock, leaning against the stone wall. "They're all dead, and I'm alive." He laughed, then bent over the dead and gathered all the ammunition he could find. He didn't take the rifles, considering them too heavy. There was still gold to carry. The sky was lightening, and the stars were fading, heralding the arrival of morning. The shadows turned from black to blue. He could now see every pebble and every protrusion on the sheer red and yellow-streaked rock face. Jack walked along the canyon wall, keeping his revolvers ready, until the mountain receded, and he saw an opening. This was Arizona. No water, no horse, and no friends. But he had made it. Jack laughed, but the laughter turned into a cough from his parched throat. The heavy bags had chafed his shoulders, his legs throbbed with fatigue, and he was desperately thirsty. No matter. There had to be a road somewhere nearby, and from there he could get to a town. Little Creek was about 10 miles away, he figured. He could make it on foot. And then, the heavy bags filled with gold dust would last him a long time. He could go anywhere. Buy a ranch. Get married. The The day was breaking and the canyon was widening, revealing the yellow-green prairie, hills, and huge cacti. I made it. Winky was right. You can get through Bone Canyon. At least I could. Jack imagined telling his story in a crowded, awestruck saloon, of course leaving out certain details, and felt like a hero. If I can just make it to town, then I'll come back with horses and pick up the remaining gold. No one knows about it, no one. They're all dead. And the werewolf isn't a threat during the day. I'm rich, and I'll become even richer. Jack stopped. The bags fell to the sand. It was too late to shoot. Riders emerged from behind the rocks, and he recognized the Comanche. The Indians slowly blocked the pass. He looked at them, expecting a war cry and gunshots, but the Redskins were silent. They didn't attack, and Jack understood what it meant. They wouldn't let him out of the canyon. He was the werewolf's prey. Jack laughed and turned his back to the Indians. The bags of gold remained on the sand. Bone Canyon was waiting. "I'll make it," he muttered. "There's still a long time until nightfall,"